We have Mika who's an activist and local comedian.
Hello everyone. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I know that there are already shout outs, but I would like to give a very warm shout out to Councilman Sabina Matos and Councilman LaFortune for being here tonight. Thank you. I would also like to give a shout out to Mayor Alorza for being here. It's not every day that you get to live in a city and you get to be involved in such a community where you have elected officials looking out for you so genuinely and being so committed to your safety and to everything that you deserve in life that cis people get every day, so thank you so much. Next month it will be close to, or it will be 3 years since I transitioned and made the decision to transition in Rio de Janeiro. And while I was there, I never thought in a million years that someone like Bolsonaro would be elected president, but we also never thought that Trump would be. So we go forward with the curveballs in the trans community. We're very resilient people. In that moment, and since then, it's been an experience. And I remember when I called my mother and I told her that I was making the decision to transition. She said, well, Mika, please don't do what you've always done before you transitioned. And I said, well, what is that? And she said, please don't step up and be an advocate in your community. Focus on you right now because you have to do that. And I said, well, that sounds really nice. And that sounds like a really great thing to do. But I am a white trans woman. I'm a white trans woman who has love from my family. I'm a white trans woman who is not turned away. I'm a white trans woman who has gone on to be on hormones, who has been open about having gender reaffirming surgery. And I knew in that moment, and I know today as well in the last 3 years, that that would have been the most selfish and unethical decision I could have made. Because today, and for the last I don't even know how many decades since Pride began, when Black trans women and trans women of color started this movement for us, like Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson. This movement was built on the backs of Black and brown trans people and trans women and trans men. But in the interim, white trans people, we have been the ones who have been given the mic. We have been the ones who have been given the platform. We have been the ones who have been seen as exceptional, as being seen as being the best version of what our community can represent. And I've known this whole time that that's what my voice represents. And so I have made a steadfast effort to step up here and to think about women like Islan Nettles, who in 2016 was murdered in the Bronx in New York. When a man catcalled her, she turned around and she responded to him, he realized that she was trans, and he murdered her. Whereas over the summer, a man did the same thing to me at the salon, which is right across the street. And I raised my voice and I told him not to speak to me that way. And I was called a tranny. And in that moment, I wasn't fearful for my safety. In that moment, I wasn't fearful for my life. And in that moment, a bouncer came out of the club and protected me. But in that moment, I wondered, and I still wonder, if I had not been a white trans woman, if I had not been a white trans woman who passes, who fits all of the check marks, all of the boxes that we think trans people need to pass, would I have still been protected? And so today is a really somber day. Today is a day where we're remembering all of the trans people, predominantly trans people of color, who have taken their lives, who have been murdered, who have been brutalized, misgendered by police departments, misgendered by reporters, etc. And it's time right now to rally around those people, those lives lost. And I do see a really mixed room right now, and that is amazing, and that's what we need to see going forward in our community. It's up to white trans people and white non-binary people to pass the mic and to make sure that we're not elevating, we're uplifting the voices of those who can't speak. You cannot call yourself a feminist in 2018 unless you are a feminist who believes that trans women and trans people deserve equal rights. And you cannot call yourself a feminist in 2018 unless you realize that with all feminism, even with trans people, you need to be honest and intentional. Intentionality is so important. Intentional about intersectionality within this movement. And so I'm here today, standing with all of you, with this community that I've been so lucky to be a part of. I never thought in a million years that when I transitioned, I would be given access to this platform, that I would have the relationships that I have with so many of the people in this room. But I stand here mostly today to make sure that my privilege and the privilege of all white people in this room are being passed on to uplift people that don't have the same privilege as us. And so I ask us today, as we have this event and when we walk out the doors, I ask that we continue to think of ways that we can be exceedingly intentional in helping the most marginalized in our community. There is so much work to be done. It doesn't mean we can't celebrate, but it does mean that we can't be complicit in being lazy. We have to make sure that tomorrow and the next week and the next week, we're continuing this work for all of the trans men and women and people who are no longer here. So thank you.